I'm sure it hasn't really set in completely yet.
After 37 years of being locked up for a crime he did not commit, Robert Dubois walked out of a Florida prison a free man.
Never used an iPhone, never used a computer, never been to a Walmart, never been to a Home Depot.
In August of 1983, 19-year-old Barbara Grams was walking home from her shift at a local mall when she was raped and beaten to death, her body left in a parking lot of a dentist's office. 19-year-old Robert Dubois was arrested. An expert witness for the state testified that a bite mark on the victim's face matched Dubois' teeth. And a jailhouse informant told detectives that Dubois had confessed that he and two other men were responsible. A jury found Dubois guilty.
There was no other evidence linking Robert to this crime, and the other two individuals that the state asserted at the time committed the crime with him were never charged because they didn't have enough evidence besides the jailhouse informant's testimony.
New DNA testing on samples located by Teresa Hall, the supervising attorney of the Hillsborough County DA's Conviction Review Unit, would clear Dubois. The samples implicate another man who was not one of the three original suspects. And as for that bite mark evidence, it's now believed that the injury on the victim's face wasn't a bite mark at all.
There is not one shred of evidence that says that Robert Dubois committed this crime.
Hillsborough State's Attorney Andrew Warren says the family of Barbara Graham has also been victimized by the wrongful conviction.
They were sold a bill of goods on this. They were told a story that was not true. They were given a false sense of closure about what happened. They now have to struggle with this, recognizing that the man that they believed had murdered their loved one for all these years was actually innocent, and wrestle with the realization that the actual perpetrator has never been held accountable.
With the help of his mother and sister and the Innocence Project, Robert Dubois is now beginning his new life as a free man, ending a 37-year nightmare.
I don't have room in my life for bitterness. Bitterness, if you keep hatred and bitterness in your heart, it just steals your joy from everything else.
Obviously, the world has changed drastically since he was free. There's a lot for him to learn, but we are going to make sure that he has everything that he needs to move forward. But to be clear, he will never be whole again. He lost nearly 4 decades of his life, and nothing will give that back to him.
For the most part, our system of justice gets it right, but every once in a while there is a case like this one just leaves you shaking your head asking, how? How did this happen? Well, today, Robert Dubois was in court, hopefully for the last time, and he was officially exonerated by the same criminal justice system that sent him away for 37 years. Here's what he had to say in court.
And Mr. Dubois, is there anything that you'd like to say to the court?
Yes, sir. I've always been pretty mistrusting of the system because I've had a lot of roadblocks thrown in my path trying to prove my innocence. So when Ms. Freeman told me about the collaboration between her, Mr. Warren, and Ms. Hall, it really made me hopeful because I really trust her a lot. And then to see it come to fruit like it has, that there really are true, honest people in these offices now, it's just been amazing. You included. I mean, you've been a big part of this. You got me out on the 27th. You didn't have to, but you did. And I'm just very grateful to every one of you.
Joining me to discuss this hearing today and this case, Court TV anchor Michael Ayala. Michael, start with this guy. I mean, he doesn't seem to have any anger in him. Yeah. 37 years. It's amazing.
Ted, you know, I think to get through what he had to go through, you have to let it go. I mean, I remember my grandmother telling me that, you know, hatred is like a poison that you drink and then expect someone else to die. You know what I mean? So that's exactly what he was saying. You can't carry that with you because it steals all your joy. Yeah,
but it takes a certain person to grasp that, and he obviously has. Let's listen to the judge talking about how the system failed him.
Mr. Dubois, I just want to say to you, this court has failed you for 37 years. It's failed you until today. It has finally succeeded. And I think it would be reasonable for you to feel a lot of resentment and bitterness about those 37 years. But you seem to instead have an uncommon capacity for grace and for forgiveness. Your heart seems to be full of grace and forgiveness, and I admire you for those qualities. Also admire you for the perseverance that you've shown and the hope and optimism that you have been able to keep for so long. So, sir, I admire those qualities about you. I wish you well, wish you the best going forward, wish you happiness going forward.
Yeah, seems like a guy that will be able to make his life productive the rest of his life because of his attitude. A guy like him, you'd think they'd be backing up the truck full of cash after what he has been through. What kind of compensation can he expect from the state of Florida?
Yeah, Ted, you know, it's interesting. Nothing can repay someone for 4 decades of their life that he spent in jail. But Florida does have a statute that provides for $50,000 per year of incarceration. So I think for him, that comes out to be about $1.8 million. He's also going to be entitled to all legal fees that he had to pay, court costs that he had to pay, that he did actually pay. He's also going to receive free tuition to any of the colleges in the Florida state system or any training schools he wants to go to. So that'll jumpstart a new life for him. It is all capped at about $2 million, though.
This conviction review unit, really, it seems like it worked beautifully in Florida, where they worked together, the Innocence Project, working with the state's attorneys. I mean, you get a lot of prosecutors don't want to hear it because the bottom line here is they're the ones that made the mistake, not the individuals, but the office. How have these units grown across the country? They seem effective.
Yeah, they're very effective. I think they're effective in restoring that trust. You heard DuBois say that, you know, he was distrusting of the system, a lot of roadblocks in his way. Well, a lot of prosecutors' offices around the country have started to create these units. I think right now there are about 65 counties throughout the United States that have them. And just to put that in perspective, there's actually 3,140 counties throughout the United States. But that's understandable because these are, like you said, they are counter to what prosecutors do. They want to get convictions, not overturn them. But they're also very expensive, and it takes a lot of time. This case alone, the DuBois case, they had to review 3,500 pieces of evidence in order to get to where they got. It took months and months, so it's understandable. But again, I think it's essential to restoring that trust that the prosecutors are not just looking for convictions, but looking for justice.
And willing to admit they made a mistake if warranted. And I think the Innocence Project in different states has a lot to do with it as well. They're finding these cases and bringing them in many cases. Bite mark evidence in this case was used in part to convict DuBois. There weren't any bite marks at all. How reliable is this evidence?
You know, in the hearing today, there was a forensic dentist, an expert who testified that exactly they are not reliable at all. They should be vigorously tested in court. He cited a report from 2009 by the National Academy of Science that says the same things about bite evidence and a couple of other types of forensic evidence. I think right now there are about 26 people overall through the Innocence Project that have been exonerated based on, they were initially convicted on bite evidence. So that tells you something. As a matter of fact, there's a show on Netflix right now with the Innocence Project where they highlight some cases. And there's one that sticks out. It's a guy named Kennedy Brewer. He was convicted of killing his girlfriend's daughter. She was found in a lake. And he was convicted because the bite marks matched him, so to speak. Turns out when the Innocence Project got involved, Ted, those bite marks were actually caused by fish. And he was exonerated and let go. But I will say this. If you remember the Ted Bundy case, they basically were able to connect him to his victims by bite marks. So 6 in one hand.
We worked in that one. It's compelling, you know, for a jury. Like, ooh, bite marks. Well, must have done it. But when the science is not valid. Today's hearing was emotional. You heard from the defendant, or not the defendant anymore, from the wrongly accused, Robert DuBois, and then it wrapped up like a ceremony where the judge officially vacated the sentence. Let's listen.
The court is now aware of are of a nature that would probably produce an acquittal at retrial. So for those reasons, the court is vacating and setting aside the judgment and sentence in 83 CF 12669 I'm vacating and setting aside the violations of probation that were entered in cases 82 CF 11670, 82 CF 11925, and 82 CF 11926. Those violation probation allegations are dismissed. The court is ordering that the defendant immediately be removed from the state of Florida sex offender registry. In closing, I do want to commend the attorneys on both sides, Mr. Warren and Ms. Hall. Commend you for your pursuit of justice in this case.
There it is. It's official. Robert Dubois, an innocent man, exonerated today in the state of Florida. Congratulations to him and for everybody on all sides. Michael Ayala, thank you.